Good morning and welcome. I'm Courtney Power, the Workforce Development Portfolio Manager here at NextFlex, and I will be moderating today's panel. As part of our commitment to support our workforce development partners, NextFlex is providing public platforms for thought leaders to share their visions for and successes in training the workforce of the future. I'm proud today to welcome you to the second installment of our Roundtable series, The Workforce of the Future, Meet the Changemakers. During today's roundtable, we will explore how academic and industry partnerships can bolster the future innovation workforce through applied learning and other practices that increase student preparation for technology sector employment. Technology and innovation drive growth in the manufacturing sector and in turn require a highly skilled workforce that can adapt rapidly to technology changes. With the manufacturing skills gap exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, with a projected 2.1 million unfilled jobs by 2030, it's becoming increasingly clear that in order to effectively close this gap and prepare technicians for careers in advanced manufacturing, community colleges and industry will need to work closely together to provide hands-on experiences and practical learning needed for competitive and competent candidates. In recognition of the need to blend this educational and professional experience, NextFlex and Evergreen Valley College have partnered to launch the Advanced Manufacturing Technology Program through funding provided by the National Science Foundation Advanced Technological Education Grant. The AMT pathway is a 2-year certificate program that focuses on both theoretical and applied learning needed to become a technician in the advanced manufacturing sector. What makes this program so interesting and qualified it for NSF funding is the depth of the industry partnerships that are driving it. Before I get into the roundtable, I really do want to take a moment to recognize the incredible contributions of our industry partners in the creation of this AMT program. As with any brand new initiative, there was no roadmap or template on what we were doing. Really, we knew the outcome we were looking for, but didn't know exactly what it would take to get there. And as such, this required a significant amount of time and creativity on the part of our industry partners. We have been unbelievably fortunate to not just have companies, but individuals within those companies to pioneer this process with us. Our success to date would not be possible without the support of our local companies. And later, I'm delighted to introduce you to one of them, Cobham Advanced Electronic Systems, CASE, who have been instrumental in building the program. But before we get into that, I would be my pleasure to yield the floor to the president of Evergreen Valley College, Dr. Dickerson. Dr. Dickerson was appointed to EVC in July of 2020, where she moved from her previous role as president of Laney College in Oakland. She has held numerous leadership positions throughout the California community college system, and throughout her career has demonstrated a strong commitment to the critical focus areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, long before they were buzzwords. Dr. Dickerson is a first-generation college graduate who holds a bachelor's degree in history, a master's degree in counseling, and a doctorate in organizational leadership, with an emphasis on higher education. I am pleased to introduce you, ma'am, to say a few words about the importance of industry partnerships and to introduce our keynote speaker, Assemblymember Ash Calrow. President Dickerson.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Good morning, community, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in NextFlex Roundtable on Evergreen Valley College's STEM learning and industry partnerships. I'd like to add my thanks to CASE, our industry partner in advanced electronics. Preparing our students to meet the accelerating and changing demands of the technology sector is a collaborative process that requires increasing participation from stakeholders across the labor market, particularly from industry. For this reason, we are incredibly fortunate to have agile, engaged, and forward-thinking industry partners willing to work with Evergreen Valley College instructors to provide our students with the experience, guidance, mentorship, and opportunities to transition successfully into the workplace. We are also tremendously fortunate to have leadership at the college who are champions for students, equity, and social justice. I look no further than Dr. Manapon Dickerson for her vision and stewardship of these partnerships. I'm excited you'll have the chance to hear from her today. I also want to thank NextFlex for being such an incredible partner. Our work together has enabled our college to develop these deep relationships with local industry partners to not only introduce advanced manufacturing, but provide students with the framework for understanding how advanced materials and electronic devices can be leveraged to create innovative solutions and approaches to the things that matter most in our communities. At this time, I'm honored to introduce Assemblymember Ash Calrow, who represents California's 27th District and Evergreen Valley College. Assemblymember Calrow was first elected in 2016 and was re-elected to his third term in 2020. He is also the first Indian American to serve in the California legislature. As a dedicated public servant, he previously served as Santa Clara County Deputy Public Defender and as a member of the San Jose City Council. As chair of the Committee on Labor and Employment, Assemblymember Calrow leads the Assembly on issues concerning wages, employment development, and public job programs. He is intimately familiar with the opportunities and challenges of preparing California's future workforce. Please join me in welcoming Assemblymember Ash Calrow.
Thank you very much, President Dickerson, for that very kind introduction. And I'm glad I'm here with you all. You may have seen me frantically coming onto the screen. I've been driving for the last couple hours and very grateful that the rain's held up just enough for me to be able to make it here in my office, as opposed to having to do this in my car, which has become far too common during these Zoom times. I'm honored to be here, and as President Dickerson indicated, honored to represent San Jose in the 27th Assembly District. Although with redistricting, it looks like my number may switch to 25 this next election cycle, so I'll have to get used to that. But more importantly, I represent San Jose, the community in which I grew up. And I represent, of course, our wonderful Evergreen Valley College, which is such an important part of our educational foundation here for San Joseans and Californians throughout the region. I myself also went to community college. I'm very proud to say that. I went to De Anza College, and it was such a critical part of my academic journey. And I think what we've noticed in a very positive way in recent years in the legislature is how critically important community colleges are, and even more significantly, especially here as we're joining together with Netflix, is the private-public partnership between community colleges and the private sector. And Evergreen Valley College has done a wonderful job in many different, as well as San Jose City. So as a partner schools, they've done a wonderful job in identifying how they can work with the private sector, with the labor unions, with different avenues to employment for their students. I was honored to serve on the governor's Future of Work Commission. I was one of only 2 legislators on that commission, myself and Senator Henry Stern from Los Angeles. And there were some key takeaways that I think are very relevant to the conversation today. And a number, it focused a lot on kind of where our trends are going in the next 10, 15, 20 years, and how do we prepare as a state, how do we prepare our workforce for those future jobs? And then one of the things that we recognized was the importance to incentivize private sector investment and inform our priorities for public education, training institutes, and laboratories, employment social enterprises, and apprenticeship programs to ensure workers are equipped with the skills to access and be matched to future jobs, and actually try to define what it means to be a future job. And that's critically important, especially here in Silicon Valley, in San Jose. So many of the students that are coming through our community college system are going to work in the tech sector and work in industries that are shaping the future. Well, how do we prepare them in high school, coming through into the community colleges, and how do we work with our private sector partners to make that a reality? We know that the job areas are going to heavily include STEM occupations to enable a technology-driven future and to further basic science research. Green economy, which is huge, right? Green occupations to enable California's transition to a clean energy future. Health and healthcare related occupations to manage an aging population. That includes long-term care, in-home care. We don't want these to be low-wage jobs and low-skill jobs. We want those taking care of our loved ones to be highly trained, highly skilled, well-paid. And I think that's where you see this collaboration in our higher education system and the private sector in informing the students, what they should be training and preparing for. And we know that the private sector has to play a critical role in driving demand and job growth in the state in the areas that can't be offshored. They can't be fully automated. Automation plays a critical role. But at the end of the day, you need caretakers to care for one another. You need folks in the tech sector that are going to bring the innovation and bring ideas. You're going to need a manufacturing and particularly advanced manufacturing base. And we've seen over the years, from the time I was in city council and having a technology park in my district, the Email Technology Park, to this day, that companies want more and more advanced manufacturing to occur locally, where they can keep their eyes on it. They can have their engineers participating in that advanced manufacturing process. When it goes to fully skilled manufacturing, I think we have to be realistic and understand that a lot of the full scale manufacturing may not happen in California and may happen in other countries. But we need to ensure that we're providing the resources and support for advanced manufacturing to happen here. To that end, we know that the federal ARPA funds of $600 million, for example, to support collaborative efforts to implement regional and industry-specific economic transition strategies with the goal of supporting high-quality jobs. Basically, that's job training, right? We want to make sure that individuals are trained. We know that we have a one-time investment through the state budget of $245 million for the labor agency to fund high-road training partnerships with a number of key sectors, including manufacturing. And we want to, and also those resources are to support training opportunities for new and incumbent workers and expand training resources. So for new workers coming out of college, coming out of high school, but also for workers that need to be retrained for the future economy and the future of work. We also included a $75 million investment for collaboration between community colleges and the state's workforce programs. Critical investments. And I think those of us, especially that have experience coming from our community college system, understand, first of all, how underfunded they've been and how much bang you get for your buck when you actually invest in our community colleges in these types of collaborations, right? And the State Workforce Board is going to also create and expand industry-based high road partnerships specifically connected with community college programs. So our legislature right now sees the need, the wisdom, and the importance of our community college system partnering with the private sector to really prepare the California workforce for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I'm very excited to be here as part of this conversation and very grateful to Netflix, to Evergreen Valley College for partnering and coming together to understand the need that these conversations not only to happen, but for them to transition to action and to make sure that we as state leaders know that this investment needs to continue to happen year over year. And we have a big budget surplus this next year as well. So think of ideas of what you might want in one-time funds that can help, especially on the infrastructure side, to create the ecosystem in our community colleges, in our local communities to help facilitate these partnerships as well.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember, for your insights and your leadership in this area. Now I'm going to provide a quick introduction of the rest of our panelists, as well as a introductory question for them to share some of their thoughts with you before we move into the roundtable discussion. I'll begin with Ms. Kelly Dudra. She is the Manufacturing Director at Cobham Advanced Electronic Systems, otherwise known as CASE, where she has worked since 2001 in roles including Project Engineer Manager and Subsystems Production Manager. In these roles, Ms. Dudra has focused on a variety of technical challenges related to complex microwave and millimeter wave integrated assemblies for aerospace and defense applications. Ms. Dudra is a graduate of San Jose State University with a degree in electrical engineering. Ms. Dudra, you and your team were the original industry partners who stepped up to help develop and support the Advanced Manufacturing Technology Program. And I know that it has been a significant amount of work, but has resulted in a pipeline of talent for CASE. Can you talk about what motivated you to support the program and how you feel CASE has benefited from the partnership?
Yes, certainly. Before I start, I just want to introduce next to me. We're sharing a screen. This is Michael Rizzo, who's also works here at CASE, is one of the students that is at EVC, but is now working here full time. But I couldn't get him a separate computer, and so we're here together on my computer, which is why we have masks on. Okay, so to answer your question, I'll try to not go too long. It all started when we realized that our pool of talent in the Valley was diminishing very quickly. So we were not able to hire technicians because they weren't graduating out of college anymore. We were just finding people were retiring, and anytime we tried to go hire somebody, maybe they had a couple of years left of their career, and all the resources were dwindling. And so then, you know, having been a graduate of San Jose State, but also a graduate also of the junior college up in San Francisco, I remember that there were technician programs. You know, some people went that route, some went the engineering route. So I did my own search, 100-mile radius of what are all the colleges with technician certificates, and I found two. One was up in San Mateo, and the other was at my alma mater in San Francisco. And I thought, well, what's going on? This is the Valley. This is where, because I remember that when I first started in Palo Alto at a company, there were programs even outside the JC graduating technicians. So I didn't know what to do. And through a manufacturing summit that our general manager was at, we got connected with Work to Future, who then helped connect me directly with Dean Dickerson. And if it wasn't for Monty, we wouldn't be where we are today. It was definitely a collaborative effort. I was asked to articulate what it was I needed, and we knew what classes we needed because you can look at other programs, and also as engineers, we knew what we needed. But the main thing is we just didn't know how to get it done, because to be honest, when we realized there weren't any programs locally that were graduating students, we tried to do it ourselves, and we quickly learned we're not set up to be teachers to teach. We don't have we're not able to give students the educational foundation they need. We were bringing assemblers in who had all the hand skills, trying to teach them to be techs, but they were missing so much of the foundation that you need to be a technician, foundation being, you know, basic math and basic science. So by partnering with EVC, talking about what we needed, and the last few years, it's been a lot of work, and certainly Netflix has been huge, program managing, pulling it all together. If we didn't have all those resources and that money set aside to fund them, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I don't know what else we need from educational facilities, all that. I know Monty knows all that, but we need all the help we can get to keep it going, because I feel we're right at we're right at that point that either the program is going to take off or it's not going to make it, just because everything's set up, but now we got to go find students, which is the hard part, because everybody wants to get a 4-year degree. But from my perspective, it's gone well, and I just don't know how we could have done it without Work to Future, EVC, and Netflix. It's definitely been a collaborative partnership. I think I answered the question, but if I hadn't, let me know.
Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce Dean Dickerson. Dr. Dickerson is an experienced educator and administrator with an impressive history of forging academic and industry partnerships. As Evergreen Valley College's Dean of Business and Workforce Development, Dr. Dickerson has overseen many technical programs, including EVC's Advanced Manufacturing Technology and Automotive programs. Dr. Dickerson is passionate about bringing stakeholders from across Silicon Valley together to inspire and train the next generation of the advanced manufacturing workforce. Dean Dickerson, can you tell us about why, from an academic perspective, industry participation is so critical to the educational process when it comes to technological pathways? You're muted, ma'am.
Thank you. Sorry, my phone. Thank you, Courtney, for the introduction. Yes, so why Evergreen Valley College is so impacted on why we decided to do this. As Courtney mentioned earlier, that the industry has a need and has accelerated, and the innovation cycle of technology has accelerated the need. But when we first talked, as Kelly had mentioned, the partnership gained momentum. The increase of technology overall, coupled with the increased importance of the skills such as technical tenacity and troubleshooting and problem solving and critical analysis, and a mindset of entrepreneurship of the innovation has increased the optimal learning to be conducted in a more industry-based environment where students are directly exposed to real world problem solving situations. In an academic setting, we focus on working with learning from our industry partners. They wanted foundational skills. We listened to them. We did a lot of sessions of listening and learning. And from that, we focus on 5 essential skills and knowledge that the industry partners had identified. And these knowledge is really required for the next generation workforce, the workforce of tomorrow, that requires learning with smart machines and smart technology. Throughout this machine-based occupations in Silicon Valley, it was essential that we at Evergreen Valley College achieve this for our students and our industry partners. And how did we do this? Just through our course alignment to directly industry needs. So the industry doesn't have to retrain the student, but can really put them online and ready to work. That directly endorsed by our local advanced manufacturing partners like Case and DuPont and who was the other Flex, sat several hours and made emphasis on technical hands-on applications skills. And also important was that our labs had to simulate some real-time testing and electronics. So we, we partnered, make sure that our industry partner donated equipment. We partnered in identifying key equipment that really can do simulation that was hands-on and technical in our labs. And really was sometimes also in our industry site to be the lab as well. So there was very innovative parts of how do we get our students really a hand-on technical skills. And that is said in a more of a rapid pace, because for the students to compete, graduated, our industry says, the learning curve has to be accelerated because the next generation of advanced manufacturing skill sets and knowledge, or the industry itself, can hold off on the technology as much as it can, but our students in the program must be accelerated in learning the programs. So the need to acceleration requires the students to have a grasp, knowledge, and really rapid skill sets in a quick learning curve. So this rapid learning curve required our programs to really be direct and how we provide that direct experience to our students. So in that direct experience in terms of Case was apprenticeship model. So if the student finished the courses, they are assigned to Case through several iterations of application process and interviews. And now they're at a Case as an apprentice. So Case currently has 7 apprentices with our federally approved registration of apprentice. From that, really the direct learning is really a key milestone to get the foundational skills. Over time, our students in the industry setting to get the understanding. So in the industry setting and having a direct understanding of that site allows the students to really have direct exposure, like Michael is doing right now with Kelly, and to really understand the ranges of consideration in the environment of the advanced manufacturing smart industry, what's that look like. So for our students, the multiplicity of occupations within advanced manufacturing has changed. It's not just assembling one gadget to another, but it's really an intersectionality of occupations that range from a little bit of computer science to a little bit of math to a little bit of hardware and software. So our students with direct experience with our industry partners brings that really home, and our industry partners appreciate that as well as our students appreciate that. That allows them to get that direct experience. So that's how we come to critical for us to be partners with our industry partners.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dean Dickerson. I'd now like to introduce our final panelist, Mr. Michael Rizzo. Michael is an advanced manufacturing technology student at Evergreen Valley College and a full-time apprentice at Case. Initially a nursing student, he was looking for a different path and discovered a passion for advanced manufacturing. Through the AMT program and Case apprenticeship, Michael has found an interesting and secure career that provides an opportunity for growth and advancement. So Mr. Rizzo, can you tell us about your own education and industry experience and why you took this path?
Hello, good morning, everyone. For my educational experience, up until a couple years ago, I was literally going to school for nursing. I worked at a nursing home for a little bit, but I decided that it wasn't for me. And around that time, I found the advanced manufacturing program through a relative. And I decided it'd be a new chance to start a new path and a new career. And so I started enrolling in the program, and they taught me the fundamental electronics and mathematics that I'd be using on the job. And since the program is partnered with potential employers, I was able to connect what I learned with being able to secure a good job. And so I currently work with my current employer, and I'm able to further my own education and skills while going to school. And so I think no matter what your background is, there's a new opportunity here and you can succeed.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Michael. And it really is truly motivating to see how you've been able to see those opportunities and take advantage of them. So we're going to move into the roundtable portion of our discussion, where I'm inviting the panelists to discuss the importance and impact of successful academic and industry partnerships, to introduce you, our attendees, to the challenges that arise along the way and reasons why it's so critical to push back past those hurdles. I would invite you to please use the Q&A feature at the bottom to engage with our panelists. But I will begin with a question to Dean Dickerson just to get the conversation going. Dean Dickerson, can you tell us how partnerships with industry benefits not just your Institute of Higher Education, but also all stakeholders in the community?
Yes, I think the benefits for us is threefold. One, first and primary is always, it's our students are impacted the most because they're able to learn skills that are livable wage and high wage in a high demand occupation that's sustainable for Silicon Valley. So they're able to stay locally and still support their community that they live and serve. Second for us is our industry partners, key partnership to allow us direct access to them, right? What does that mean to have direct access? It means like we are access to the latest technology that they're going to use, the smart machines, the innovation that they have, and that we become the first one of front end of providing, we're like beta testing, right, of all those new skills and knowledge that has enhanced and that industries provide us access to that. And third, but mostly is our community impact for our region. At EBC, that's aligned to our goals and mission of community impact to ensure that we provide career pathways for our students in a community that are high wage, high demand, and sustainable to live in Silicon Valley. So the industry impact, so overall, those three folds for our stakeholders and our community and our students is insurmountable and really unmeasurable for long term. So I think that's where the impact is, us to make sure our industries and our community colleges are always a partner in that.
Definitely. I think it goes back to Assemblymember Calrow's opening remarks about really building the local ecosystems. When we talk about workforce development, I always like to say it's a national problem with a local and a regional fix. And really it starts with one student and one person and one employer building those programs, just like you have done at Evergreen Valley College. So Ms. Dudra, CASE has been instrumental in building the AMT program and providing those insights along with other industry partners in Silicon Valley. What lessons did you learn about how you can effectively support institutes of higher education?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think the most important thing, like we said, it's the collaboration, but is to have our engineers or the hiring, both that engineers and the hiring managers involved. So it's a huge commitment, but when you have a need, then you get the upper management to support at the general manager level. And I think we've seen the same thing with the other industry partners. So, so the most important thing I think is to have the professor come from the industry to help teach the classes at EVC, because they are not just academic, they're hands-on and they're based on industry experience. And it's something that, EVC isn't going to be able to figure that out without our support. So although it's still painful today, one of my, he's not just an engineer, he's an engineering manager in my group. He's teaching up there part-time at EVC, also helped to develop the courses, working with Monty's professors. And then when you're teaching the class, I think the most important thing is that it's not just my engineers up there teaching. I've sent other engineers to support the teaching in the lab. I've had managers go up to EVC, and lately we've been doing it on Zoom to do outreach out to the students. I think there's nothing like students who are in the class and then, prospective students that are at EVC having the hiring managers come up and say, here's the jobs that we have available, come work for us. If they're in the classroom, I know all the students by name right now. I've already been up to EVC. I'm personally up there waving the flag of, come work here, please come apply, because we're so, we need help. And this is the best candidate pool that we have, quite honestly, because they've actually been trained in the exact work that we're doing here at CASE. So I think in addition to that, it's important that as part of the labs, and it's been kind of hard with COVID, but I think part of our future plan, hopefully later this year, is that some of the lab work starts getting done here at CASE and we've given Monty some old equipment. She was very excited to get it. For us, we were just going to write it off. So it was a win-win situation because we need the latest and nobody wants the older equipment. But, we got that set up, and then, but we also want the students to be able to come here and then, meet other students like Michael that have been very successful. And then I think when they talk to other technicians and engineers, you're right here in the, you're right here in the backyard of industry. So having that partnership and us having to be fully engaged, I think is important. And that to me, that's the hardest part, because we're not staffed extra for it to support it, but because we're in such dire need, all of a sudden it becomes important enough that I'm allowed to do it and let other projects slip. So that's just my perspective on how this whole thing has come together and what's going to make it work going forward, is to have that commitment.
Definitely prioritizing workforce. Technology cycle has advanced and developed, but we still have a very kind of standard cycle for educational development. And I think that's what the AMT program has demonstrated, is that we can actually tighten that cycle and generate workforce ready individuals with the skills that you actually need right then on the floor. So Dr. Dickerson, there was a question in the chat about the 5 skills that you were referring to in your introductory remarks. Would you mind clarifying what those are?
Yes, because it was typing. So the 5 skills the industry identified is definitely, one is the English composition, and then math. So we have a contextualized math for manufacturing, and then English to make sure that English students have the right reading all the manuals. And then the other one that we were surprised about is Excel, right? So the learning using Excel spreadsheet that really follows along to, English, math, Excel, and then manufacturing for electronics, and then the data analytics for manufacturing quality control. Those are really the 5 key components, and the other courses that we have in there are more of the next level after that. But those are the 5 foundational ones that the industry partners identify as a primary gatekeeper, like if they can do those things, and the other ones, courses that the specialized courses would become natural. So.
Definitely. Mr. Rizzo, you had said you had heard about the AMT program from a family member. How do you think that more students can become aware of and recruited into programs like the Advanced Manufacturing Technology program?
Well, so I heard it by word of mouth, but like Kelly said, we should inform potential students, that the demand for these kind of skills are very high. Like manufacturing employers are always looking for new employees. And for getting new students, I think the way that it's spread, a lot of people, you could use like different social media platforms to get the word out. And so there's various ways, but lately it's been through word of mouth. Then I think that's an avenue you guys could try.
Definitely. I think sharing success stories like your own is definitely one way that the program will continue to grow. And I know CASE is very excited about having had you on board. As we are coming towards the end of our time together, I would like to ask the last question to Assemblymember Calrow. Would you be willing to share with us your ideas about how state and local governments can help support collaborative industry programs like the Advanced Manufacturing Program to sustain and grow local economies? I know you'd mentioned being on the lookout for ways that funding can be used in the future, and what are your innovative and new ideas in this area?
You know, first of all, I think Michael pointed out something really important, that he had a change in terms of his emphasis from nursing to advanced manufacturing while going to community college. And then he heard about this program through word of mouth. When you hear about something through word of mouth, it means that it's getting very positive feedback, right? And I think that that's why community colleges are so important, because it's not as rigid as when you go to a four-year university, you pick a major. Having that fluidity is critical. Now, I'll make that parallel argument to government. We need to be more fluid. We have to be less stuck in our silos, because if I'm trying to get funding for a program that's a partnership between the community colleges and the private sector, but the buckets of money are, we have workforce development for private sector, we have higher education funding, and you can't get the two to blend because folks aren't thinking outside the box. That's a problem. It's just, as Dean Dickerson was talking about course alignment. Well, that actually takes a lot of work to get a community college in course alignment with what the private sector needs are. Similarly, government at the state level, it's not just about giving money. We are $150 million ongoing for local education agencies to participate in career technical education incentive grant program. $86.4 million we're putting into regional occupational training centers. $115 million for one-time zero textbook cost program for career tech students that can waive their fees. That's all important. But as we've seen over the years, just putting money into something is not good enough unless we know exactly how that money is being used in a way that helps to get rid of that kind of red tape, right? Especially from the governmental side. And so when we see our community college doing innovative work with our private sector, we have to be part of the solution. And I think it's not, again, not just about having money kind of raining down. If that money has constraints to it that doesn't allow, Dean Dickerson or Kelly to be able to develop a program that makes sense for people like Michael, right? And so I think that when I, especially coming out of the Future Work Commission, we've learned that we have to really break down these walls within government that prevent us from allowing innovative programs happening on the ground. And so I think that's the most important thing that we can do, especially as chair of labor and employment. It's something I've talked a lot about in terms of not just, again, funding, but in terms of actually genuinely touching base with the variety of innovative programs that are happening, seeing what's working. You all are in a better position to tell me what's working than me, coming from Sacramento down to San Jose and trying to figure out what works the best. And so we really need that feedback. We need to hear from Kelly and Michael, from Dean Dickerson. We need to hear, hey, this is what's working. We need some more resources, or we need to remove this one bureaucratic hurdle that'll allow us to do even more. And so I think that's really how I see the role of the state, in addition to financial resources, is helping to facilitate the relationships that are creating these opportunities for our students.
Definitely. And we hope that by roundtables like this, where our workforce development voices can come together, that we are facilitating these conversations, not just in Silicon Valley, but in areas across the country where our NextFlex partners and community colleges have joined with us to really help build the workforce of the future. So it's evident from the discussion today that really a coordinated effort between all stakeholders, particularly education and industry, but also, as Assemblymember Calrow points out, the many stakeholders that exist within the community, to include local and state governments, that together we can really generate exciting results that have meaningful impacts, not just for individuals, but for our greater society as a whole. And so I'm really so thankful for our panelists for joining in our conversation today, and our attendees for participating in the question and answer. And I would encourage you all to please feel free to continue this conversation within your own communities and also with us at NextFlex. You can find us on LinkedIn at NextFlex Learning Portfolio. We encourage you to tag us and continue this conversation as we build the workforce of the future together and make a difference. I'd invite you to visit the Evergreen Valley College website, where will show up in the chat here in just a minute, as well as NextFlex's website, where we are working on a number of innovative programs to help build this workforce all the way from K-12 to the incumbent workforce. It has been my pleasure to sit with you for this time today. Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists. Your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you spending it with us today. Thank you so much to everyone, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.